everyone? Follower of Yeshua here. To you other followers of Yeshua, it's nice to hear and see you guys. I hope you guys watched my last video. This is part 2. And we left off there, kind of talking about where I am now, as in terms of like job and, you know, where like I'm at, like literally. And so, I wanted to take us to a different part of this little mini series of, who I am, why you should follow me, and the details of that, and just getting more personal with you guys. And I just, again, want to thank you for even investing time and divesting time away from your normal life to just kind of hear and listen to me. And so I just hope that I honor that fact and that your time won't be wasted here. So if you didn't know and watch the other thing, my name is Tyler. My last name is Brown, and like the color. And I gave a little bit more detail where I was then and now in that other video. So I wanted to kind of give you guys more of a personal aspect of like who I was and where I came from. And to do that, I have to like completely backtrack to like where I first remember things. And we'll go back to the most pivotal time in my life where I was 12 going into 13 and just hating the world, just seeing the world through the lens of depression, through the lens of this hatred for every living thing and non-living animated stuff. I could look at a computer I couldn't look at a laptop, but I could look at a computer and just hate it. And that was when like porn was really first introduced into my life, so I was being overly stimulated with images that I shouldn't have seen at that age, and just kind of like subjectifying the whole world in this like hatred aspect. And my mom and I were on really bad terms, and she did something one day, and I can't remember all of what our like verbal yelling and arguments were about, but I do remember such a disdain where I could have easily hurt her and had tried to hurt her. And she just felt at that time that she wasn't able, or I wasn't able to be conducive and loving and be a family member. So she had taken me and got me counseling and told me, I'm going to a group home. So I met my first figure that I would consider a father figure, a godly figure there. And he took me to church a couple times, and it felt like an obligation, and it was at the time. And so he showed me just the rawness of just taking me to church and having faith in God that it would do something to me. And I remember it very vividly in the fact that I remember who was there, I remember what was going on, and I remember the words that were spoken over to me that day that I did that altar call. And like, that was when I truly came to God and believed that Yeshua, and at that time I called him Jesus, had taken it upon himself to die the sinful death I should have died, and take my sin and nail it to the cross and rise again after 3 days and 3 nights, beating sin, death, and grave. And so like every believer that's new, I believe, like maybe they don't not all of them. I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule. I believe that I was not an exception to the rule. To the fact that I radically changed, and people around me were like, I don't understand why you're in a group home, how you could have done something so bad that your parents just couldn't handle you. And so I kept coming and going towards the Lord as fast as I could, thinking that there was, it's almost as if, like, in my thinking, that I thought, man, if I don't go as fast as I'm going to end up dead without salvation anyway. So that should tell you where my mind was and how immature and childish it was, to think that. And so I had did some reformation of my life in those times, and we can fast forward, so it doesn't take forever and all the details. We can fast forward to when I was about 16, and I'm in my youth group. I go to youth group every single week. I go to church on Sunday every single week, and I'm helping leadership. I'm in a drama club / performing / evangelist kind of aspect of a group that was, sanctioned by our church and looked upon as a ministry. So I was heavily involved in church and doing all that I could do to just further my steps into this salvation that I've received, and into the, wholeness of the body. And so I found myself just getting there, and at this time, I don't know what to say, but all of the hormones and testosterone levels and whatever you want to equate it to, my high school life was a tough time, and so women and in the same sense of Solomon had become kind of an idol in my life, and I thought that I had to meet, or I aspired and wanted a relationship with a woman to spark at my age, so that I could have that 80-year-old marriage, or 70 or whatever, just that really strong long-term marriage. And I'm 27 now, so you see where that ended up. But yeah, but no, I definitely see it in retrospective thinking. I definitely see it as a bad thing that I had thought of women in this way. And so, needless to say, I had got into a few relationships with a significant other at 16 within the church group, because who else? I didn't know anywhere else to go find a godly woman, or a godly girl, I should say. And so I wanted to try to flourish and bloom something that God did not want in my life at that moment. So a couple relationships ended and failed, and just completely stopped my faith in a sense. And yeah, so it was a tough transitional time in my life, and one that I would say was unrequited with a lot of things. In the aspect of, I pursue things with a greater passion than others, or if they do at all. So so that led to this kind of brotherhood and friendships to kind of dissipate, and the church, that church has flaws, like any church and any human being or any establishment that's made by a human being and is overran by humans. that church decided to kind of cast me away and didn't treat me with the same respect of what the Bible teaches us to treat certain individuals like this. And so I definitely found myself at the edge of depression once again. And man, at that time did I decide to jump and leap in there. So we'll just, fast forward a little bit further into like 18, or round about the end couple of months of my 17th year alive. And I would say that was a real tough one. I got really heavily involved in porn, and it was consuming and chronic, that it was a issue, not only spiritually but probably clinically. And on top of that, I had probably what would be classified as clinical depression, and not to mention what I later on to find out that I would be bipolar. And so I started, and I stopped going to school. I wouldn't get a job, and so my mother was like, "Get out," and so I had to get out. And I became homeless, and for about a year, I was homeless. And my grandma, who had been in my life all throughout and had been, a real strong role model in my life, she asked me, come live with me. And around this time, when I went to go live with her, I got to get the opportunity to find who my real dad was, and so I did. And to this day, he still hasn't met me in person, but we do talk on occasions. Now more so as in a father-son kind of relationship. Now, I did use him in my past for money and times of hardship, but needless to say that I had my reasons and he had his reasons. So anyways, so at this time I'm living with my grandmother, and about 6 months in, I'm doing about 3 different jobs, really working my butt off, and the fact of like doing a lot of hours and doing a lot of work. And I was just not satisfied. I came to this depression state again. I wasn't satisfied, and so I tried to kill myself. And the long story short with that is that my grandma and I came to a fallout, and she kicked me out as well. So I'm in Michigan at that time. So when I was kicked out of my mother's house, I was in North Carolina, and then I moved back to Michigan. And then in Michigan, I was homeless. So it's a little bit worse in Michigan to be homeless than it is here in North Carolina. Fun fact, after like 10 years, I came back to North Carolina, and boy, has it been enjoyable. And it's sometimes like, man, how did I run into you? And the simple fact that I've ran into a couple people from the times when I was going to church that I didn't ever think I would see again. And it was so like, God is great kind of thing. But I digress back to the story. And so I did a whole bunch of illegal activities, such as drugs and, stealing and hurting people, just to survive. And not that is any justification, but just to, solidify the reason in my thinking back then. So I'm going through all this, and I finally get caught. And I get caught with a hefty amount of felonies, which I believe they were trying to, rack up as many felonies so that you would at least take 1 to 2 of them and serve some time. So I went to jail, and I met the Michigan legal system. And did they deal with me poorly or justly, or gave me a helping hand. I guess it's however you want to look at it. They took 12 felonies and they dropped them all down to 2. That gave me 1 year in jail, 1 year in prison, and 2 years on probation, with the note of saying, well, if we do all these things, then it will be marked down as a expungible thing by right after all this is done and said. So, needless to say, life moved on. I didn't do well in the things that they wanted me to do, so I became a felon. And I went back into the old patterns, and I went and ended up in prison. If those of you that have been in prison know what I'm talking about when I say there's not much to talk about to that aspect. Prison's prison. And maybe one day I'll do a live and you guys can come and ask me, what was it like there. But for the sake of time and for the sake of content, and for the sake of not scaring you away, I don't want to go into full detail of that time. But just know that at that time I went to prison, and I was about 20. And so I spent about 3 years there, and I get out, and I start to really want to believe in God and really want to go back to my faith roots. And I see the purpose of it, and so I start searching again and how to get back into it. And I get back into it, and a lot of things happen, and a lot of things had transpired, and needless to say, I kept getting into this recidivism rate statistic, and I became imprisoned again for a short little time. And then when I got out of there, I really wanted to change my life. I really wanted to get out of this cycle, and so I came to God again. And then a circumstance happened with a roommate, and things got weird, and things got unbiblical, and things got super demonic in the fact of my choices. And I ended up breaking up a marriage and becoming, not a marriage in the aspect of legalism marriage, but in an aspect of people that were in a relationship for quite a long time, 17 years. And, thinking back, she probably wasn't happy in that, and she just wanted something else. So I was that something else, and I acquired stepkids that were between the ages, at the time, of 11, 5, and 6, or 11, 5, and 7. And I loved it. This is what I wanted. I wanted a family. And then reality kicked in, and those people were who they were. And because of what I made my choice, when I came to accept the salvation that was offered through Messiah, I came into contact with the biggest demonic forces that have ever been in my life. And I say that with complete certainty. I could easily tell you that I was being gnawed at and clawed at to get inside of me. I could easily say that I am not schizophrenic, and I never will be. But I will say and knows that the end result of that relationship and the people that were around us and the things that were happening in that time, I can for sure say that a demon was speaking in my ear things of you should just end your life right now, because everything you've done is meaningless and everything you will do is meaningless. And I just want to take this time right now, because I'm speaking upon these things, that if you are feeling the same way, that God will break those bonds and loose them and bind those beings back to where they come from, to never be around your house, to never be around you ever again. And I speak that in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. In the name there is power, and they will bow, and they will leave right now. And I just want you to know that this isn't a channel where we'll talk about demons and angels a lot, but I want you to know that this is how real it was, to the fact that they were telling me things and trying to make me in my life. And I know there's other people out there that have felt this, that have seen this, that have seen entities, that are controlled by entities. And I want you guys to know that Yeshua, God, is so much more greater than, and gives so much more answers to your questions in life in general. It doesn't make sense not to just accept it in him and then run after him. But I mean, if you could imagine walking through a 2-level house, or well, 3-level if you count the basement, and not being able to actually legitimately walk a straight line to get through, whether it be just random things or trash that covered the ground, like you couldn't see the ground, and roaches and flies and all kinds of bugs infested all around you. Not to the fact that they were in the walls, but they were on the walls within numbers, and you could see them, and they would literally crawl on you, and they would literally try to get into your skin. And these things were happening. And to be so spiritually oppressed that literally your speech, your physical physique, you were on the verge of death. And the reality of trying to fight for life and not seeing an outlet of any light, of any end result other than death. And I'm sure a lot of you have gone through actual physical things like cancer and actual schizophrenia and actual DID. And I can't speak to those facts, but I can speak to the fact of that time and that thing I went through. And this was a year ago. This is 2021, 2020, 2019. This was a time and period in my life that constructed of two and a half years. And it didn't present itself this way. It didn't start out this way. And it didn't end the way it started. It was something in its new an entirety to my life that I've never experienced before in my life. I mean, you could consider me an invalid at that time. At the end of the 6 months of the last 2 years, sorry, I'm stammering because it baffles me to the extent. So needless to say, I would lay my head down and I would feel a ominous presence of evil just weighing me down, more than gravity would, like a physical, visceral thing. And I would see things, and you could say that it was because I was coming off of smoking weed, or you could say it was all kinds of things, clinically and medically. well, I know it to be true, that there was demons that could not touch me physically, spiritually, because I am a child of God. And their squirming and their reaching and their things had weighed me down, brought me to a place that I hope to never see again. But God doesn't put you through anything that you can't handle, or that He won't give you a way out of it. And so my mom finally, no, it wasn't even my mom. That's where I ended up, was here in this room, and where we are now in life. But something clicked one day, and I think it was just seeing this evil spirit within my stepdaughter, and within my other two my stepdaughter and my stepson, my other stepdaughter and my stepson, who exhibited possession, and the fact that they would say things that they would not know. They said it in such a matter-of-fact way that it wasn't them in personality, and within almost and with not an actual, their actual way they talk. And so something clicked in me one day, and I finally stopped not wanting to live. I finally stopped that, and I got up and I said, I can't do this anymore. I really am going to die if I don't leave this place right now. So leaving literally everything behind and only wearing what I had, and finding somehow, miraculously, the night before when I was technically kicked out and was like seriously contemplating leaving for the first time, like solidifying those thoughts. And I remember looking for my birth certificate all everywhere, lifting up every nook and cranny, and there was a lot, and not finding it. And then the next morning, I wake up and I go down to where I was looking, and it was in an exact place that I've looked 22 and a half times, and it was there. Whether it was God or them playing with my life, who knows? But I remember it distinctively that way, and vividly, because it is so raw and so new, or so fresh at this moment. But all that to say that I got out of there, and I became homeless once again. And homelessness brings a desperation to the fact that God becomes very close in those times. So God was working on me at this time, and I got in contact with my mom, and I was talking on the phone with her for a couple months while being homeless, and I just was like, I can't find a way to get a steady way to take a shower, let alone get a job. And I think those two kind of, in that time, correlated with each other, because you can't get a job unless you're hygienically just sound. And so my mom, extended her hand, on complete faith in God, and said, come back and live and be part of my life again. And it had been 10 years, 10 straight years where I didn't even think about it. To hear my mom kick me out at 17, hear her ask me 10 years later to do the complete opposite, contrary to what she had said. And I don't know, God presented himself, almost manifested himself physically, was able to break everything, and I was able to accept my healing in this process. And so I got back in the faith, and I'm growing stronger and stronger every day, and I'm running back. And I think that because I was such a on and off again Christian or anything, that even those times I was able to solidify some things and find strength in and kind of mature in a slow but mature enough way, you know? So, oh, that brings us to today. And as a follower and as someone that aspires to bring glory to God and show other people and disciple, you know, I felt the calling for a pastor a long time ago, and it just, boom, got there again. And I'm one that believes that a formal education in the matter is warranted. Maybe not needed, but warranted. And I think people will respect my opinions more if I was. So I am taking and going to take further steps in these actions and faith. The YouTube here is more of a discipleship of facts of that I want to bring God's truth to the masses in the most efficient way that I can at the moment. And that being a server and making, you know, $20-$30 an hour, but on those days, brings me to this. And I don't think I have aspirations of being a famous YouTuber or becoming famous out of it. That's not my aspirations. And truly, if you are following me and not God throughout this whole journey, then you're at the wrong place. And I don't mind losing you as a follower. If losing you as a follower will save you in the long run, so you don't put me before God, I am like almost happy to tears that is happening. And I think if you find yourself here and this has grown to a certain extent, and you find yourself following me instead of following the words of God and truly working at it, and I challenge you that everything that I say, you back it up with scripture. And if I'm wrong, I want to hear it. I really do. I really want to hear you guys. I really want to follow God with you. I really want to hear your opinions and your struggles. And I thank you that some of you will take it upon yourselves to make that prayer, wish, asterisk, a thing for and a reality. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see God's glory. And I'm really excited to see people that will become my brothers and sisters. Like, I am so excited that I can't wait. I'm almost like, when is it gonna happen? But I really hope that whatever day or time that you come across me, that you will look into these first videos when I first started, so that you can see my growth, and maybe that'll inspire you just on that alone. And so I can't wait, and I really, really do need your help in this. I will be doing select things that I know I want to do with this, but ultimately God will lead us. But I want to hear your guys' opinions about what you guys want to hear about. What questions are you wanting to hear about? I had a recent conversation on a Discord through a Patreon Discord that I follow and that I sow seeds into, and it was so spiritually awakening in my soul and you could feel God within this conversation, and the rawness and in the way it was presented. And I think it would be great for you guys to hear, so I reached out to that same guy, and anyway, long story short, he's thinking about it, and I'm praying I'm like, God, please, please. This is going to edify the church more than anything. So, yeah, I don't want you guys to see me as a celebrity, even if I get to what's considered that by, secular things. This YouTube, and hopefully it's the only YouTube I make so I can stay genuine. This YouTube is not meant to be here like I'm talking to an audience. This is meant to be here as a audience talks back to the interviewer and to a bigger aspect of things. So I really hope that you guys will continue to follow me and you continue to bounce ideas off me, and maybe one day just come on and talk with me, and we can make a video and we'll get consent. And yeah, I just love this this ministry starting off with me, and I hope to see it grow. And I know it will grow because it's definitely something God was like stirring in my heart and solidified in his own manner, and has progressed very exponentially as we speak. And I just hope that you also will allow me to invest in this a little more, in the fact that give me time. Give me time. Money is a thing that is objective. It's just not subjective, and I can't get away around it, and I can't make this, the picture better or the audio better without using this. And I have looked into things, and it's not that expensive, but it is still a thing I cannot afford at the moment. So thank you guys again for being here. Thank you for allowing me to grow with you in the faith, and hopefully we see a lot of each other in the future, and we can be edifying in the body. With that though, I have to leave you guys. I have had so much fun making this video. I had so much fun getting throughout all these things, and yeah, God loves you, and I love you, and blessings and shalom upon your house, and bless God, and love you guys. See you again.